guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do the long overdue update to my Pan Those Eyeshadows video. So I'm sorry, I never did an update from my first video. I should have done one in September. Not to make excuses, but in all fairness, I got married in September and it was crazy and hectic, and I tried to film and I just couldn't finish and then get it edited and turn it in on time. So I just decided to focus on my shadows for 2 months and then I can come and give you guys an update. So this will be my second update, and I will start monthly updates going forward. So I'm just gonna jump into it. I have my list right here, and I'm just gonna go down the list for the shadows. The first shade in my project comes from my Z palette, and this is a palette of all of my single or depotted eyeshadows, and the shadow that I rolled was this one. I do believe this is from an Anastasia palette, either the, what is it, the Sultry or the Norvina, the long purple Norvina. So hopefully you guys can see there, I hit pan on that, and that took me 6 uses. So this shade is very soft, but I did use it all over my lid, and I threw a shade in the crease, and I really liked it. It was great for every day. But I also would wear it on my lower lash line to really give a little bit more depth and just bring something extra to the look. So I really like the shade. I'm glad I got use out of it. It made me rediscover it, and it's one of my favorite tones. I really like that bronzy rose gold tone. So love that. Like I said, it took me only 6 uses to hit pan, and we will go ahead and roll that out and roll another one in. The next shade comes from my Charlotte Tilbury Darlings palette, and it's actually the second shade in the palette, and as you guys can see, I hit pan on it. So this took me 17 uses to hit pan. I actually hit pan on it today, and I love this shade. I love this palette. It's probably one of my most used palettes. And I'm really glad it was in this challenge, because I don't think I would have used it as much as I did. I will tell you, I was a little bit sad to hit pan on a Charlotte Tilbury palette. However, I'm glad I did. There's not a shade in this palette that I don't love. You can see I've got a pretty good, whoops, over here. I've got a pretty good dip going here in this shade and in the other shimmery shade. The mattes blend out beautifully. This was such an easy palette to use. Definitely a favorite, and I will continue to reach for it, but we'll go ahead and roll this one out as well. Alright, and our next one comes from the IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette. I've had this palette for quite some time. You can see a lot of the letteriness is worn off. And the shade that I did get was Java, and I did hit pan on that. I loved this shade as a liner shade. Sometimes I used it in my brows very lightly, but most of the time I used it as a liner or on my lower lash line to really deepen up a look. So really like this shade. I will definitely continue to reach for it and use it. I enjoy this palette. You can see that I hit pan on 2 of the shades. So I hit pan on Mocha and Sheer Joy. Mocha actually I used up all the way. That was a really good brow shade for me. And then I've hit pan on the Sheer Joy and pretty much used all of that up as well. It's a great palette. I definitely recommend it. I forget about it a lot, which is the purpose of doing this project. So I am glad I rediscovered grabbing this on days where I just want to throw something in the crease and be out the door. So thankful for that, but we will go ahead, roll that out, and roll another one in. So that's exciting. The next one is my Lancome Single in Rose Satin. So remember this packaging, very sparkly packaging. I got this at a cosmetic company outlet. One of the outlets, because one is Estee Lauder, one is owned by like L'Oreal or Lancome. So I got it at one of those, and hopefully you can see that I've hit grid on it or hit pan. So right there, there you go. You guys can see that there's some grid there. I love this shade as a face highlighter. It is beautiful. I used it to highlight my cheekbones. I used it to highlight like my collarbone, my shoulders. I actually mixed some in with a body oil and used it that way. It's beautiful all over the lid, but I really love it for like the highlight, the inner corner, the brow bone, the cheekbone. I mean, I put this stuff all over my face and I still reach for it as one of my main face highlighters. So love that, glad that I discovered it, but we're gonna roll it out and roll something else in. Oh, I did forget to mention, I do apologize, but I used the Charlotte Tilbury 17 times. I used the It Cosmetics 13 times. And I used the Lancome 11 times, so it took me 11 times of use. Now, those 11 times, because this is a pretty thick pan, those 11 times usually would include like a day. So how many days did I use it? So I would use it in my eye look, I would use it on my face, my collarbone, shoulders, because it was really using it in August and part of July, and so it was warmer months, so I got a lot of use out of it. Anyways, back to the next shade. This is the NARS Hammamet. As you can see, I hit pan on this. Now this was a repressed shade that had a pin prick of pan on it, so I was really just looking to expand that pan, and I used this 16 times to get it to where it looks now. This is a great transition shade for my skin tone. I used it almost every other day probably. I think that when I kept track of that shadow, I would forget to notate when I used it, because I just remember reaching it for it pretty frequently. I would put it in my crease. Sometimes I put it all over my lid and into the crease for just an everyday look. I would use it on my lower lash line to help blend out any shades there. Beautiful shade, really works well with my skin tone. So the next palette is our final eyeshadow, and it's from my Huda Beauty Desert Desk. Like I said in my first video, this palette will be in the rotation non-stop because I am just trying to get some use out of it. It's not like a pan that palette for the year or anything like that. I'm just trying to use the palette up more. And the shade that I had was Retrograde right here. And obviously I have hit pan on that. I also have some bonus pan with the shade Cashmere. This Cashmere shade, I love it. It gives a really pretty cool tone look. I just wear it all over my lid with a cool tone like transition or crease color, and it was beautiful. So I kind of rediscovered that, and I hit pan on it while using this palette. But the Retrograde shade that's actually in the project, it's really that duochrome shade, and I really enjoyed it. You needed a lot. I felt like I really had to pack it on heavy and pack it on wet to be able to get that effect. So I went through it very quickly, and I used it 9 times. So only 9 times to do that. The last thing we have is the face palette that I decided to throw in this project. So this is the Lorac Shine Bright palette, and the shade that I got was Aura. That is this shade right here. You can see I did not hit pan on it. I don't even think you can see really any usage. However, I used it 22 times. This is a very pigmented blush. I can show you. It's very pigmented, and it's very tightly packed. So there it is right there. I actually had a full size of that blush, like a single of it, and I decluttered it because of this project. I discovered that I didn't like the shade as much as I thought. Okay, I am going to use my Spin the Wheel app and start picking our palettes or shades that we're going to use. So the first palette that we got is the Naked palette. We'll spin for the second one. Second one is my Natasha Denona Blue Purple. So far, Naked and Natasha Denona Blue Purple. Oh, Natasha Denona Glam. That's exciting. That's actually a new palette in my collection. The Natasha Denona Star palette. That is one of my favorites. Okay, one more spin. And that's going to be the Lorac Pro 4 palette. Alright, so I have all of my eyeshadow palettes gathered. However, I also need to spin for a face palette. So let me go ahead and spin and do that. So the NARS Exposed Face Palette. I will grab that, gather everything, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, I am back and I have my Pretty Random app or randomizer app, I forget what it's called, and I'm going to just start picking what shade we work on from each palette. So I have the NARS Exposed palette. So we're going to start here and work our way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So that's going to be with every palette, so I won't re-explain that. And there are 6 shades like I said, so let me just hit randomize. And shade 3 is the shade we are going to work on. So that means I'm going to work on this shade right here. This is like a bronzy, very like reddy. This is a very red tone, bronzy color. I think I could use it as a blush, maybe a bronzer, but it might be too red. We'll see. I bet it'd make a really pretty eyeshadow though, that's for sure. Alright, next up is the Huda Beauty palette. There's 18 shades in here, so let me go ahead and it looks like I got shade 14. That is Angelic, right down here. So that is like a pinky gold shade. It's a shimmer shade, so I think that I will probably hit pan on it fairly quickly. I'll try to show you guys to get a shot there. It does have a decent dip in it already. So I think I'll hit pan on that. I don't think I'll hit pan on the NARS shade. I think that I'll just get to my 20 uses in a month or two and then roll it out. But the Huda Beauty, I think I'll definitely hit pan on that. The next palette is the Lorac Pro 4. This is what that palette looks like. There are, what, 16 shades in here. So 1 through 16. Hit randomize. Shade 16. So that is Midnight, and in my very first video I said that I would not pan these really deep dark shades because I just don't want to force myself to do that. It's not going to be fun, and it's not a shade that I would normally use up. So I'm going to go ahead and roll again for that one, and I got shade 8. So that is Black Currant. Okay. What do you guys think? That's what that shade looks like. It's like a deep purple. You know what? I'll try it. I don't want to have to roll again. I feel like that's kind of cheating, but I mean, it's my video, my rules. However, I will go ahead and try the Black Currant. It's like a deep purple. The next palette is going to be the Naked palette. There are 12 shades in this palette. Okay, so I got number 11. That is the shade Creep. I'm not going to pan that shade and the darker one from the Lorac 4. So let me go ahead and try that again. See, the shaking just doesn't work for me. 12, we're not gonna do that one. That one's dark also. Okay, number 1. So that is Virgin. It's like a very light shade, but that's okay. I'm not mad at it. We'll see what I can do and how I'll use it. The next one is the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I just received this palette. I just got it. I bought it. I didn't receive it, but you know. So I just got this one. There are 15 shades in it. It's beautiful. I've been able to play around with it some. Natasha Denona is one of my favorite formulas, so I'm excited about this and about having 3 of her palettes in here. So there's, like I said, 15 shades. Okay, 11. So that is this shade that's technically called Center Eyelid, right down here. It's like a gold shade. I'm perfectly happy with that. I think it'll be fine. I think it should hopefully work well with some of the other shades that we've gotten, or I've gotten, because you guys aren't going to be using these shadows. So the next palette is the Natasha Denona Star palette. There are 18 shades in this palette. I'm just trying to move a little bit quicker. And let me go ahead and randomize. And I got shade 8. So that is Orion. That is this shade right here. I know it seems darker, but it's really not, so I'll go ahead and work on that. Like I said, I'll show you guys swatches at the end. The next one is the Natasha Denona Blue Purple palette, I think is what it's called. I think there's 28. Yeah, 28 shades in here. Had to do math. So, click randomize, and I got shade 15. That is this shade right here. So I don't know what this shade is called because I ripped the plastic insert, you can see right there, that came with this palette. I ripped it off when I got it a couple years ago, but it's a beautiful shade and I should have no problems with using it. So I'm pretty excited about the shades that I have rolled. Sorry guys, my dog, my cat, they're all in here, and sometimes I gotta make sure they're not doing things they shouldn't be. But let me go ahead and swatch all of these shades for you, and I'll come back and show you the color story that I'm working with. Alright, so here are all of the shades, and this is the color story that I'm working with. So up here, this is the Huda Beauty Angelic. It's not swatching the best because it's very dry, because it's very old. I don't think you guys can really see that well. This is the Lorac 4, the shade from that palette called Black Currant. This is Naked Virgin, that really light shade right there. The gold is the Center Eyelid shade from the Natasha Denona Glam palette. This is Orion from the Natasha Denona Star palette. This is that shade from the Natasha Denona Blue Purple or Purple Blue palette, and then this is from the NARS Exposed, and that is in, I think it's Give It Away, but it's hard to tell with the back of the packaging like what the shade is called. So those are all the shades that I'm working with. I'm pretty excited. I am excited to get some use out of quite a few Natasha Denona palettes. So I will be back in a month, I promise, to give you guys an update and hopefully to roll some shades out, roll some new shades in. I appreciate you for watching. I am sorry that I didn't get back in the time that I said I would, but I promise I will be back in a month to give you an update. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this and you want to see those updates, and please like this video. I do appreciate it. Thanks so much. Bye.